If you're a veteran dealing with chronic sinusitis, you want to try to get this rating, you don't even know where to start, this is going to be the video for you to try to optimize and get the highest rating possible. So today I'm going to break down the sinusitis ratings from 0% to 50%, what you need to do to file your claim for sinusitis, and how, if you are not sure if you're going to be able to get the rating, being able to tie it to the Pact Act, which pretty much guarantees a rating. Okay, so first let's talk about how the VA actually rates sinusitis. So sinusitis falls under 38 CFR 4.97, diagnostic code 6510 through 6514 for all the varieties of sinusitis that you can claim. And the VA assigns these based on the severity of the symptoms and how often they occur. So let's start with a 0% rating, which is service connection, but no compensation, and no rating, which means possibly no symptoms. So this rating is for veterans that have sinusitis based on an x-ray and a diagnosis, but they have no symptoms of sinusitis or nasal decongestive issues. So if you fall into this category, it means that the VA says, yes, this did happen from service, but you're not going to be compensated because you are not having symptoms, and therefore they don't believe that you need compensation for that rating. So one example, maybe you had gone to the doctor or the dentist, gotten one mild sinusitis issue, therefore had an x-ray, but you were never put on antibiotics and never shown any signs or symptoms again. That might get you that 0% rating. So let's go on to the 10% rating, which is mild to moderate sinusitis. So for 10% rating, you need 1 to 2 incapacitating episodes per year, which require getting on some sort of antibiotics roughly for a 4 to 6 week scale. But this isn't the only way that you can claim sinusitis for 10%. They actually look at another criteria for 10%. You can also be rated 10% for having 3 to 6 non-incapacitating episodes throughout the whole year. So this means headache, congestion, or crusting. Doesn't necessarily actually mean full-blown antibiotics. For example, you might have a bad sinus infection maybe twice per year that requires some antibiotics and alleviates the stress and the pain of the decongestion that you have. This would probably land you in that 10% category. So let's move on to the 30% rating for sinusitis, which is moderate to severe sinusitis. So at this rating, we're having 3 or more incapacitating episodes per year, which again looks like taking antibiotics 3 times per year would land you into that category for 30%. And again, they open up this category to say there's another way to get 30%, and that is if you have 6 non-incapacitating episodes per year, which again results in having headaches, pain, nasal discharge, or crusting. So incapacitating episodes again would say they're not treatable with antibiotics, but they are headaches, they're pressure, they're sinus congestion up to 6 times per year. So if you're thinking about it this way, every other month, if you've had sinus issues of some sort that you are logging and keeping track of, that would probably be considered non-incapacitating to that degree for 30%. And finally, let's go on to our 50% rating, which is severe and chronic sinusitis. So to land yourself this 50% rating, you have probably had a surgery for your sinusitis issues in one category. And of course, the second category is having actual chronic sinus infections and problems. But now to be more clear, these chronic sinus issues are treatable with antibiotics, but they are not ever going away. So they continue to come back. They are chronic in nature. So for example, if you're taking strong medication just to stop your sinusitis year round, that would qualify for a 50% rating to having this chronic sinusitis. And the key difference besides the specifics that happen that you're comparing is how long you've been tracking this. If they say incapacitating episodes 6 times, you don't even look at 6 times a year. You have no calendar of this. You have nothing to showcase this. You've never been to the doctor more than 1 time in 1 year. You probably aren't going to be able to qualify for a 30% rating or higher, and you might land at a 0 or 10% rating when actually you might deserve that 30% rating. So you need to be very thorough with getting your documentation. So now this comes back to why you might want to make this rating or how you can claim it if you've been on a deployment using the Pact Act. The Pact Act states that in certain regions of the world and in certain timeframes of deployment, you've been exposed to toxic chemicals, toxic exposures in general, and this actually opens up the door for you to make this claim, and you do not need a nexus letter from a doctor. That being said, you still need a current diagnosis. You still need to have documentation, but you do not need to actually say this is from service and show when it was happening in service. You show your DD-214, your deployment timeline, you advocate for yourself and say, yes, I do remember being exposed to random things in the desert, in the Middle East, wherever it may be. And if you qualify for this in the Pact Act, they do not need to tie this to your in-service event specifically because you don't need to have an in-service event. You can claim sinusitis without it. So if you've had sinus and congestion issues, maybe you've even tried to apply for sinusitis, do it underneath the Pact Act. Do it with current conditions, documented well, and make sure that your diagnosis is up to date, but then again, apply through the Pact Act if you have the ability to. Please share this video with a veteran. I hope this helps you. If you want to learn more about the full course where I can teach you everything that you need to know about submitting a claim, check out the links below.